Are you sick of the Excel files shared across the organization? Do you want to modernize this solution? Learn how Microsoft List could be alternative for your Excel files. Every organization who starts collaboration between employees sooner or later starting to use Excel as a solution to share data between people. The longer you work with it, the more you see the problems connected with that. Locked out files, limited configuration. It's very difficult to use Excel as a platform to build any kind of business applications. In this video, I want to compare Excel as a platform to gather the data across the organization and alternative Microsoft List, so the solution that could help you to build smart and modern business applications without any coding. Moreover, you will see the functionality is more or less very similar to what Microsoft Excel offers, but it has a lot of great advantages that will allow you to build something a lot more complex. Of course, not every scenario will work with Microsoft List, but this is also something that I will cover in this video. If you will like it, I want to recommend you to leave the thumbs up. If you want to get the notifications about the new videos, please subscribe. Any activity from your side will support this channel, and thank you very much in advance. Now we will dig into the topic when to use Microsoft Excel versus Microsoft List. Before we will move forward, I want to talk a little more about what are the possible limitations when you're considering moving from Microsoft Excel file to Microsoft List. Not every scenario will fit great in such a case, so I want to highlight few elements when I see that this is not the good model to transfer your very simple yet business application based on Excel file to Microsoft List. First of all, you should heavily consider to move any kind of Excel files that are multi-connected with each other. Microsoft List allows you to do that kind of operation, so create the lookup between two lists, but if you have complex interconnections and formulas that gather the data from multiple Excel files, multiple spreadsheets that are interconnected, probably this is not something that will work very well in the Microsoft List. Such approach is a business application or very simple business application in your organization, probably something like database or Microsoft Dataverse will be better solution to address that in modern way. The second scenario when I would not recommend to migrate the Excel to the Microsoft List is very big Excel files with thousands or hundreds of thousands of records there. You already can imagine that big Excel files is not also something that we should normally use, and some kind of database or Microsoft Dataverse will be something much better. Microsoft List supports hundreds of thousands of records there, but you will see in the next steps more advanced features like permissions could heavily limit number of records you can have there. And again, Microsoft List should never be treated as some kind of database or alternative to database. If you have very large Excel files with hundreds of thousands of records, move to database. The third scenario when I would not recommend to use Microsoft List instead of Excel is the case where your spreadsheets have complex formulas, especially mathematic formulas. You can do some kind of calculations in the Microsoft Lists, but still, in my opinion, they are very limited. If your Excel file have complex mathematical operations or complex formulas that convert the data forward and back, it will be very difficult to repeat that kind of functionality in Microsoft List. If these formulas are simple, no problem, but if you have very complex formulas there, this feature will not be present in Microsoft List. Another scenario where the feature from Excel will not be present in the lists is the case when you loading the external data to Microsoft List using external data sources. This is quite simple solution that you can implement for the Microsoft Excel file. It's not that easy to do any kind of similar operation in Microsoft List. If you have that kind of Excel files that loads the data from external data sources, Microsoft List will not handle that. And the last case where I would recommend to consider that kind of operation is the situation when you have quite complex charts, visual reporting prepared on top of the Excel. You can prepare something similar in the Microsoft List, but it will be not that good, and available options about graphs and diagrams are quite limited. Of course, you can use Power BI to address that very well, but this will require additional licenses. If you doesn't have that and requires to have graphical representation of your data by graphs, stay on Excel, at least to the point that you will have licenses for Power BI or another solution to use. Again, you can see these are very specific business cases when Excel is used in a quite complex approach. In many cases like that, Microsoft List probably will not be the first choice you should consider to get rid of Excel, but still I would recommend highly to think about alternative to the Excel as a platform for the business applications and collaboration between people in your organization. So now let's talk when it's worth to move from Excel files to the Microsoft Lists. You can see that I would not recommend to consider migrating the Excel files, which are very complex, to Microsoft Lists. But in general, I would highly recommend you to do something like that for any other scenario. When I'm talking with the customers and trying to tell what Microsoft List is in general, I'm saying that this is Microsoft Excel on steroids in the web browser. And this is more or less the approach you should consider, that if you have the Excel file that is used by multiple people for any kind of collaboration, any kind of gathering structured format of the records, Microsoft List probably will be able to do that much better and improve all aspects connected with the collaboration, especially when people working on that data at the same time. The next step for that structured data will be to convert it to the business application. It could be very simple business application that gather requests from people about the lunch, registering people who visiting your office, or holiday requests across your organization. And extending Excel to become business process or business application is very difficult, but doing the same thing with the very well structured Microsoft List is super simple. I will show you few examples when you should migrate your Microsoft Excel files to Microsoft List and start to build very simple no-code applications based on that and share them across people in your organization that could work on them at the same time. This is really powerful solution which is available on every Microsoft 365 subscription, and you can convert your Excel apps to Microsoft Lists anytime. And now I will present few cases when it is very natural to move from Excel file. How many times you've seen that kind of error on your screen that this file is logged out and there's no way to edit it because somebody already left the office. The key thing is that Excel blocks the whole file if somebody editing it or have just this file opened. If you will move to Microsoft lists, the data is structured based on the records. So if anyone will edit it, in worst case, that person will block just this record, not the whole structure of the list. This allows you to invite multiple people to work on that data at the same time. And imagine how that kind of setup could simplify your life if you have the files when people working together at the same time and including their input to the file. In Microsoft Lists, it will be super simple. The only thing they need to do is to use the new button and enter the data. If they want to edit the record, they editing just the one record in this Microsoft list. This is totally different approach, which gives you the possibility to enable co-authoring of the data in such data repository. And just one more thing before we will move forward, you have one additional feature that allows you to work in a very similar way when you compare it with the Microsoft Excel. If you will open Grid View, you will see that Microsoft Lists will start to work in the very similar model to the Microsoft Excel. This is something that allows you to manage multiple records very quickly, and any additions that happening will be saved on the record level. Moreover, more people can work this way, and again, any addition will be locking just this one record rather than whole database instead. You can see, if you have case that it's needed to work this way, it is also possible. The second reason I want to highlight from perspective of moving from Microsoft Excel file to more structured Microsoft list is the data quality and control that you can create on the format of the data and the quality of the data that people will fit in here. I can imagine if you were working with the Excel and gather any kind of data from your users, you can figure out different types of the format of the data that they will use to format the dates, the values of the contract, status. We can use some kind of structure for this format, but still many times people will make mistakes and there's not that much possibilities on Microsoft Excel to take control of that or easily predefine the values or validate the data that people feed in to be sure that we will have good quality of the data. Remember, behind all these informations are just the text, so it could be also in data format or currency format, but still this is just the text. So people sooner or later will do mistakes. This will decrease the quality of your data. On the other hand, when you are working with Microsoft lists, the data is specifically validated based on the columns you are using. Solution will not allow you to put not validated format of the data. You can predefine the answers. You can validate the people across organizations, so you will be able to be sure that proper types of the data will be registered in this form or in the data sheet view. Same thing with the date, you just using calendar to select the date. Of course you can paste any kind of format of the data in here, but still all these columns are validated and you cannot paste here any type of the data. This is a really powerful solution that allows you to improve the quality of your data. Moreover, when you are editing the format of your column, you can include additional elements. You can select predefined default values or do additional informations like if this column is required. User will not be able to fulfill the record without all required information in this specific column. You can enforce uniqueness of the value. So if you will have ID or unique number that you need to store, you can be sure that solution by design will validate that. Plus you can prepare additional validation formulas to also improve the way how user works. This is totally different world from perspective how the data is validated in here, And if you have challenges about that in your Microsoft Excel spreadsheets, I can imagine when you're seeing all these validation options, you see the value behind Microsoft List. The third element I want to highlight when you're comparing the user experience about Microsoft Lists and Microsoft Excel spreadsheet is the look and feel. Just take a look how Microsoft Lists looks beautiful when you compare it with the standard Excel spreadsheet. And what is most important, this validation, this formatting is automated, so it's adapt to the values that we have there. Of course you can get very similar experience using conditional formatting, but still the way how data presents here when you compare it with the format of the data in the Microsoft Lists, it's totally different. From my perspective, the most important part here is when you have thousands or hundreds of records and you need to take a look and see where we are, that kind of colorful view will give you much better overview of the records you gathered rather than flat Microsoft Excel. And all that styling is prepared without any line of code. This is the experience that your users will love. I can also imagine that you many times found that kind of information when you're editing your Microsoft Excel spreadsheet. It means in general that this spreadsheet is protected by password to be sure that no one will change some specific parts of it. You want to grant some kind of access to the part of the data or to the specific cells. When you're working with Microsoft Lists, you can manage the access per record, so you can decide that the specific entry in the Microsoft List could be edited by you or any other user, or you can grant that kind of access or just remove it, so just giving that person only view permissions. So people will be able to edit only the records that they will have access to, and this will not block any other user from doing that. You can imagine how powerful that kind of functionality could be. Holiday requests can be just edited by the owners, the people who requested the holiday, or HR department, but not by everyone. Some records could be hidden from part of the users because they will not have access to it. This is super powerful solution when your applications will become more and more complex. Granting permissions on the Microsoft List is per record, so you cannot grant access to the specific columns, but you will be able to extend that using Power Platform. In case of Power Platform, you can automate the process of granting the access. In the owner column, you can see that we have the users in our organization, so there's no problem to select them in the Power Automate and grant edit access to this specific record and remove access from any other person that could work on that. At the same time, you can customize this form that we are using to edit our Microsoft List record in the Power Apps and there add additional validations to the columns that people can edit. This is of course another level of making your app more and more complex, but you can imagine if your app will grow and grow, probably sooner or later you will get there. I want to also highlight in this place two more very powerful functionalities that you can use in case that many users working on these records and many people collaborate one line or one record in the Microsoft Lists. The element I want to highlight here is the version history. If you're working with multiple people on one record, you can see what kind of data was changed when and by whom. And this is also super important information if your app is part of some process. This also gives you the possibility to restore that version or just monitor that thing. Another element that could be very useful when you need to control that kind of changes is the possibility to set the alerts for the whole list or just for this one specific record. If you will select Alert Me, it will give you the possibility to set up the alert and be informed by email if anyone will change that record, and you can get that kind of summaries immediately or in daily or weekly summary about all changes. This is a really great functionality if you have complex data sets that you need to monitor and see what kind of data is changed there. Moreover, every user of that kind of list could use these features, and this is something that is totally not possible in the Microsoft Excel. So I can imagine that you can start to think how I can migrate my nasty Excels to these cool Microsoft list solutions. And when you will create the new list, there is a possibility to do that from Excel. I will be very frankly with you, I almost never recommend to use that option. It is quite limited, it's not mapped properly the data that is maybe unstructured on your side to the proper column types in the Microsoft list. Every time when you migrating your Microsoft Excel spreadsheet to Microsoft list, that kind of moment is great point to review it and improve it. So in that case, I would recommend you to start from using any kind of template that is available here or just the blank list, and then paste the data you have in the Excel spreadsheet to the Microsoft list using data sheet view. So the format that you can use as the Excel view in your Microsoft list. This will require more work from you, but will guarantee that you will not get the nasty format of the data imported from the Microsoft Excel. Unfortunately, this process could speed up sometimes very simple imports, but in most cases when you have complex data there, you will not be satisfied with the results. I hope this video will encourage you to review all business-oriented Excels that you have in the organization and try to convert them in the business applications based on the Microsoft list. None of that conversion will require any kind of developer experience from your side, no coding, and benefits that you can bring to your organization could be really huge. Microsoft lists are one of my favorite applications in the Office 365. I'm using them constantly, and I learned to move from Excel nasty business apps to really great looking end user ready business applications based on the Microsoft list. Try this on your side, check your Excel files, and if you will have any questions, just leave them in the comments. Good luck and see you in the next video.